right, so back on the airwaves on this silent Monday morning. For the most part, it's quiet, the kind of quiet and peacefulness that comes with the idea of, did someone shut down a major machine for the day and we get to enjoy some peace? Like, what's missing? The noisemakers are missing, the machine is sort of missing. Maybe they had a machine in place to get through the past week with Veterans Day, and then of course there's the Israeli stuff. I feel like there was something else last week also. Good morning, Joe. Yes, now you're at Shops at Liberty Place. I am sort of commenting again on today must be a switcheroony day, a switch around day. Like, okay, all the reinforcements and all the whole entire machine that was up and operating through Veterans Day or what have you is switching, so that the next group can come in for the Philadelphia Marathon, and we kind of have a day off from all the noise that gets created. Although that's noisy there. So it's kind of rare to get those days in the city. I do wonder, the big Christmas tree is up, Sharon. Right. I read that they light it on November 30th, I think. So I started to pre-plan and everything to figure out when they're lighting it. And now that I know in advance exactly what day, maybe I'll try to be there. December 10th is the extra special Christmas organ playing at the Wanamaker building, where Macy's is. And so I have a few things sort of like tucked up in my brain as to maybe trying to check out. Good morning, Dave. Yes. We were talking about the machine must have had to shut down on Sunday night in order to get re-geared up another day, maybe for the marathon, because it's one of those extra silent days. And I kind of wondered, they probably have an employee doing it overnight. I kind of wondered, like, if the city, will just innately have a lot of noise because there's a lot of traffic, a lot of cars. All of that contributes to a higher noise level. Some people call it noise pollution if you have to live next to the L or a subway station. That would be noise pollution. Or if you live next to a fire station, that it could play into the noise pollution problem of people not being So I haven't been walking Rudy on a regular schedule, and I'm wondering what's going on here. Is this some sort of message? We found a dog walker who collects more poop. Or what if it were a personal message? All this dog poop. Rudy misses me, right? Rudy does or doesn't miss me, or he's having one of these. He's like, "Where's Sharon?" So anyway, but I kind of recognize. Is that Jasper up here? So, so I know this person here. This is actually was his house. He let me stay in there. So don't be fooled. This guy has a lot of money. He's like undercover or something. I'm kidding. I have no idea if he is. Used to be Yenhua Lee Jasper sister Yaya. So it was Yaya. He used to go by Yaya, female. Volunteered with him back in the day. And pretty sure it's him, unless his dad owns the shop down here. So anyway, but he transitioned to a male, and a very successful transition. Like, you really can't tell. That's the it depends on everyone's preference. Some people don't mind. But do you have the time to say hi? And can you stop by? I can't stop by Shops at Liberty Place. Sorry. Joe, I had already planned to head this way, and sorry about that. We'll have to, maybe on your birthday or something, we'll have to do a meetup. That's, I guess, Thursday or Friday. So maybe I'll do a quick meetup then, and do a coffee or something like that. So I like Shops at Liberty Place. It's one of the better I like that better than Comcast. So sorry about that. Philadelphia Marathon weekend. Yes. So I'm all the way over here by the Kimmel Center. So had I known, maybe I would have gone north instead of east. I had already planned to come this way. I even considered walking like all the way down to Penn's Landing, just because there was such a good walk last night with the with the space heater vote. I'll have to come up with more neat ideas to create a more interactive live stream. Often I'm on here trying to tell my story, but back to the point of how quiet it can be. Like, I wonder in the suburbs if the peacefulness is more often occurring, just because there's not a whole big gigantic machine in place. It would depend on where you live, I guess. If you live near a fast food restaurant, maybe not. But if you have a little bit of land and you're kind of off the beaten path, maybe it's nice and quiet and silent and all that stuff. So there's the CVS. I think it is because he has the earrings. So I was this person who I saw back there, I was like, I'm almost positive that's the person, that was Jasper. And the reason, and I had to sort of do a double take because the transitioning was so good. And also, I only knew him that well. He co-founded or helped run Project Safe, which included collecting or bagging safe supplies for people up in Kensington. So people, like the volunteers, would pair up, and I volunteered a few times, like 3 or 4 times I went out. But then it was hard to go out. So in general, it's hard for me to get out the door. It used to be. Now I'm out the door all the time. But it would be this thing of you meet up with a volunteer partner and you go walk under the L at night and hand out safe supplies. This would include clean needles and or even prophylactics. That, in fact, I think Jasper might have coined the phrase, I know you have prophylactic shock, And this would be, as someone who's more feminist than male masculine internally, this person would recognize that, a lot of women sort of suffer a little bit and have a certain, women can feel, it's a joke, like, you've got prophylactic shock, So anyway, it's a nice way of saying, women sometimes feel violated or what have you, and so forth and so on. And men don't always know that, just because, I don't know, there's a totally different wiring in the brain between the sexes, if you will. So anyway, I will head on this way. That's the Atlantic. And I'm pretty sure that person was the person I thought it was, just because of the earrings. I know he smoked, but I don't know if he's a regular smoker or if he does it because it's part of a shtick, if you will. Because I even saw a yoga person smoking one day, and I was totally floored. Okay, I guess not. Yes, I thought you had a few minutes, but if you have to turn off your live stream. Right. Sorry. Oh, Joe, I don't have to well, I was already headed this way. Sorry about that, Joe. And also, sorry, the live stream often cuts out by the Kimmel Center. There are certain corners and intersections where the live stream cuts out. So either these places are rigged with certain things or what have you. There's the Loch Bar, L-O-C-H. Like Loch Ness Monster. Or Loch is also a word for a body of water. So it's more like Scottish, Old English, what have you, hence the Loch Ness Monster. So of course we have the Kiffness and all that. It's real, or do we play one on TV? I remember that commercial back in the day. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. That was a commercial from a long time ago. Shamrock Foods. Cocoa Blue Nail and Spa. British Cleaners. So in general, sorry for viewers out there, in general I don't meet up with people that much. It's more of a safety issue, even if we love and adore our viewers. You know, a lot of live streamers do their own thing. And maybe at best they'll meet up with people who live stream. Like in New York, some people who are all live streamers, they will meet up for, what do you call it? Like New Year's Eve or something, and they wind up in the same sort of kind of media area or whatever. They kind of designate their own little press box, if you will. So there's the William Way Center. And we'll head on this way. Right. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, and I'm supposed to look like I'm headed to the ER. So I'm wondering if this guy is coming or going from work. If he's going to work, he would be kind of headed in the direction of two hospitals. That would be the Pennsylvania Hospital at 800 Spruce and thereabouts. And then there's the Jefferson, of course. Jefferson is larger. I prefer the Pennsylvania Hospital. I had to go into the ER once because of my bike accident, because I was riding in a bike lane. And I don't really know exactly what happened, but I wound up head over heels of the bike. My shoe flew off. My jaw was rearranged. I wound up with stitches in my face. My hands blew up like two big balloons. They were almost impaled by the spiky pedals of the bike. So I still have scars, 15 years later. Actually, it was 2012. So 11 years later, still can see the scars. And anyway, wound up in the ER there. The Pennsylvania Hospital is a smaller hospital. And I actually think that my grandmother wound up there many, many years ago, either for a stroke or she had something done and a stroke happened while she was in the hospital. So I think that's sort of a common thing anyway, won't get into it, but certain networks handle their people differently. So some people wind up with strokes, some people wind up with heart attacks. I actually think it could be sort of induced or caused or what have you, but if they deem appropriate, it's like the powers that be. I kind of think that way sometimes. So anyway, Jefferson is just, there's so many people there. They even had a shooting. Remember when across from Milk Boy? I remember that when I first moved here. This is Kamak here. Sometimes I do a little enliven over there. They got the shrubbery over here, Vanderveen. Oh, Vanderveen. I feel like I've seen that. Like there's an ad or something for Nuveen, Nuveen. So I think I wound up with a piece of mail that belonged to someone else, and I was like, I don't think this is mine. I looked at it more closely, and in tiny print, you can see it was actually for someone next door. So I never looked up Nuveen. I have no idea what it is, but it almost looked like an enrollment plan for healthcare or something. Like it sort of had that feel to it. But Vanderveen, V-E-N. And for German, that would be like we. You know how they use V's for W's, and it would be like, we want to wean you off, the program. We find it so abusive. David? No. Nacho cheese and original. Game with the cigarettes and Dutch on its side. Kleenex, sugar wafers, and so forth and so on. This used to be a floral store, but they turned it into a convenience store. I've been meaning to go in just because it kind of has a very cute feeling to it. Like it's a really convenient convenience store. They have Sour Patch Kids York, Lay's Honey Barbecue. Yeah. So, wink, wink, wink. Classic Lay's. What does that mean? And it's in the neighborhood. So, anyway, Kit Kat cereal. Oh my gosh, what are we doing to people? Fruit Loops. The Fruit Loops that was used as a neighborhood connotation when I was taking yoga. Someone showed up in a shirt that said Fruit Loops, and I was like, is she trying to say that whatever got kicked off is like a Fruit Loop? Like they keep tossing people around on a loop, like they do something crazy. I felt like I was on a loop. It was totally weird and wacky. So sorry about that, Joe. I don't want to. I know I'm so awesome that you don't want. I'll come into the city this weekend, both days. Okay, I may not come to the city on Friday. Oh, okay. Guess not. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't mean to be But there's always an issue. I always have to be, I sort of do a lot of things by myself for a reason. So sometimes, maybe getting paid and so forth and so on. Oh, somebody left there. But so I don't want to mess anybody else up we got Ka over here, 2480 on this junky car. That's about right. Karina. Belongs in a junky car. This goes back to references of the people who set me up for 2011. So, there's a quilt out here. Is this 322? Hey, this is about Vanita. So I knew someone who used to live in that very first. Oh, and there's a diamond. They're on the same program. So I realized there's two people who are on the same program. It's a really low program. So the diamond on the door there. I used to know someone who lived in this front apartment briefly. She separated from her partner at the time and moved over here, and they had shared custody of their dog and everything. Clutch. And I wasn't a fan of these folks because I do feel like they were part of a setup. And they weren't that cool. They kind of minimized me as a person and would pretend like, oh, let's all get together and meet up. And then it would be like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So, and I was like, oh, that's fun, and then they seem like they're more niche-y people. So people who have to belong to a certain clique, probably because drugs are involved and stuff like that. So anyway, you know how stewardesses are for, kidding. Anyway, I headed over here. And here we are at Giovanni's Room. It's now AIDS Thrift. It used to be Giovanni's Room bookstore, but now AIDS Thrift. I'm not sure of their hours. So should we go this way or go back down to, excuse me. So I really cherished that peacefulness this morning. I love waking up when it's that quiet. Of course, it's a thing of, and a shout out if anyone else feels the same way. It's this, line between, all of us every day, the grind starts all over again. We get up and start the day over again. Like it can get really weird if you deeply think about it. And it's like, if it's too quiet, then people wind up sort of in depression mode of, now what do I do today? And if you don't have a lot of money, you're kind of limited to what you can do. How do you keep your spirits up and this and that? If there's, if you're kind of bored or what have you. So dog walking became a little bit of a cure for the blues, because technically office work can create depression. So there are people who work in offices and a lot of anxiety of going in, having to perform a certain way. There's always someone trying to power grab and outdo you, because it becomes really dumb in those spaces. Like, there's this big, gigantic, beautiful world, and then people are always trying to outdo everybody else in the office. And it's, when you really look at the big picture, it's really dumb stuff if you wind up in certain roles in the workforce. And it's, you know what I mean? So dog walking is sort of a cure to being sedentary. It keeps you from being sedentary if you have a lot of walks, which I had tons of walks. In the past, I was running constantly from sun up to sundown and then some. Depending on who was in, sometimes I would be out at 11 o'clock at night doing the last bedtime walk, walking all over the city constantly. And in order to earn a check, you know what I mean? So you just do it and you become so active and technically in shape. Other countries where people ride their bikes all the time as opposed to driving cars all the time, technically they have a lower percentage of heart attacks and certain types of disease because they keep the body moving. The body's moving. It's not sitting in a car somewhere. It's not sitting at an office watching a screen. So that would be the norm in other countries. And they're technically healthier, albeit whatever, a lot of office type work involves, the exchange of money, like at lawyer offices and stuff. So head on over here, just sort of roaming around the neighborhood. I I'm deciding which way to go. And we'll head this way. Oh, there's another familiar face over here. I've seen this so, if you get around the neighborhood enough, you see the same people. So, in fact, the person over there has the stroller with a pink stroller with like a dog. It's like an L Word episode. But this person, trying to remember his or her name off the top of my, or their name, but wound up all the way over near where I used to live because they had to fix up their apartment, or wherever this person is living right now. They had to redo something and renovate or what have you. So they temporarily displaced him, her, they. And that person was all the way over by Bainbridge, like over by where I used to live, 626 South 19th Street. The address would have been 700 something. Technically, they stuck this person in a junky. I don't love that. There's like some sort of apartment building kind of thing. I don't know what you call it. It would be almost Section 8-ish, kind of. Has a little garden next to it that's never tended to. And anyway, so that person was displaced and put there for a couple weeks, I guess, until they finished whatever work they were doing on her place or their place or what have you. So we'll head on over here. So, hi, Dave. Yes, beautiful street. Yes, section 7.5, right? Sounds like a shoe size or whatever. Right. I don't know. That's so funny. I have no idea why it's called Section 8 other than whatever it's listed as in governmental lingo. Like they always have numbers assigned to every single bylaw or what have you. So apparently certain types of housing became Section 8. There's probably addendums or whatever, or amendments that say Section 8.35A, double Z, triple O, so forth and so on. I kind of know somewhat what some of these bylaw labels look like because I actually went to trucking school for CDL Class A. It sounds ridiculous, but I really was desperate to find work. And there was a recruiting office or just recruiters kept targeting, I guess, the Gainesville area. A lot of truckers in the South. It's a bigger deal in the South. You don't hear a lot about that up here, I don't think, unless you're in a bad neighborhood and they're trying to get people who desperately want to escape their neighborhoods. But so at some point I was like, I guess I'll just do it because everywhere I've worked, like whatever it is, it keeps showing up. Like in public schools, we had orchestrated people who orchestrate and set up and try to get people, they provoke people. It gets weird. It's like, am I in a different dimension? Because other people seem to be able to work and everything's okay. They don't have weird things happening. So anyway, hello from the UK. Hello, yes, Dave. DH Trains. Yes, welcome in. Thank you. And you're lucky an Army recruiter didn't get you right. And I wonder, technically I'm older, so I'm not sure if I have surpassed the age requirement. Hello from the UK. Thank you so much. I've been watching Sherpa's Day, Sherpa, and Jody Boo, Kiasha, and Nephew Nook over there in the UK area, Cornwall. So some reason I got hooked on them. I love watching Sherpa opening all the gifts, or I guess his dad really, Jamie, opens all the gifts. In fact, we have two coffee shops over here. It's really French. It says j'aime, like almost like je t'aime. Normally, I learned French here in high school and college, and usually it would be je t'aime, like I like you or I love you or whatever. But instead, they just have j'aime, like J''AIME. So every time I see Jamie spelled that way, but of course without the apostrophe, and two, Kiasha does or doesn't have an apostrophe. Right. I had to think for a minute with Kiasha. So anyway, but went to trucking school. Believe it or not, I am so on the opposite end of the spectrum of someone you would expect to show up at a trucking school, but I really was desperate because of whatever began in 2011, which really threw me off the rails big time. And it's kind of in the mysterious realm, so it's really hard to prove. Like, So anyway, I wound up writing a book about it and so forth and so on. But finally decided while living in Gainesville, Florida with my mom and aunt for 2.5 years that I would go to trucking school. And on the first day of trucking school, that's Playables, like the beach. Playa is the beach, I think, in Spanish. I'm not positive, but welcome to pineapple land. And I learned that in pineapple, there's an element in pineapple. It's called bromelain. So we won't break down the words, but down to everything. But I was like, bromelain, what? Yeah. So anyway, but the trucking school, on the first day, they would have us opening these law books and taking a test or a quiz on. There's someone down there who reminds me of a friend of mine named Walter, but he's hustling really quick down there. It's not him, but a lot of lookalikes of him because he's bald and wears like glasses, like spectacle glasses. So, but I thought it was intimidating, and I happen to have a pretty good education. So, and a lot of people who show up to trucking school probably are coming from a very rough existence, and they're looking for a way. They're either looking for a new avenue to sell drugs. I'm kidding. Some people were probably there for that. Or they're looking for a way out of the situation in which they were born into, sort of like joining the military or what have you, like Dave said, Asanowitz there. And I was intimidated. I was like, I'm afraid to not pass this test quiz. I'm of a certain mindset today, and I thought we had to really pass it like for reals, even though it was open book. Other people might have been like, well, clearly, it's just they're just sort of doing this on the first day to get us warmed up to and used to legal jargon and how hard the trucking world has it and stuff like that. CR England, Salt Lake City, Utah, they would pay for you to ride Greyhound from wherever you were to the location that you were sort of set up in. They have a school in Georgia, Texas, but somehow I wound up in Salt Lake City, Utah, wound up on a bus, didn't love it. But anyway, wow, what an experience. I actually passed the test, the driving, written, and everything else. But the legal jargon thing was pretty intimidating. That's where I would learn bill number, 8.035 double A triple Z, so forth and so on. In the end, the pandemic wound up showing up right after the course was over. I wound up coming home right before that because they couldn't find a female trainer in my case. Because they said find a female trainer, and I kept asking, and they're like, we don't have any female trainers. So anyway, he brought me in, okay. So we had to find him. Okay. Who found who? So anyway, we saw that guy earlier, and he reminds me. He kind of resembled someone I worked with a long time ago. So Jen told me to say that. And so the dealio is, I thought it was pretty intimidating. I thought it was pretty rough to do that, especially to people at Sierra England, to do that to people who probably come from a very bad educational background, bad neighborhoods for the most part. I don't know if they were intimidated and hid it, or if they had other agendas as it is. And didn't care that much. But anyway, I did wind up with a CDL Class A on my license in Florida. I still have it for proof to show that I had to go, because I had to go through a whole bunch of written portions before even going to trucking school. Go up here. Before even going to trucking school, you have to go to the DMV and pass a whole bunch of things. And they technically, because I am highly educated, I know they worded a couple questions. Technically, they were wrong. It's hard to explain. You would have to really know language a certain way. Hello. Hi. Don't say hello is what he said. Anyway, we're trying to show people that I'm not going to say what they want me to say. For people who thought they controlled people's brains their whole lives. So someone much faster than lightning, can outdo anyone trying to get me to say certain things. They'll play along for a while, but then they get tired of it. They'll turn it off. Keep it on. Off, on, off, on, off, on. They'll keep going until people get a clue. Sorry. Alright. It's like a 50-50. So anyway, I've got the CDL Class A in Florida. I will keep it forever just to prove that I actually had one. The thing I didn't have was over-the-road experience. So you need the over-the-road experience to get an actual job. I was in a very desperate situation and was actually willing to try. But I would say for most women, like 99.9% of women, even if you're harsh, grew up with, even if you're a tough gal, I would say, no, don't do it. And I know other people say that, but they really don't have actual experience, because there's plenty of people and they always tell people what to do or not to do, but they don't have real life experience. They just go by hearsay. Well, you don't want to do that because they just sort of already know everything, but they never experience life, and they're still sitting in Delaware in a big house, with 5 kids and stuff like that. So they apparently they're self-righteous and they know what you have to do and what you're supposed to do and not do. I have actual experience. I can actually say I went to trucking school. Because you really don't know. And also, if you're in a desperate situation, who is someone to come along saying, oh, you don't want to do that because of this, that, and the other? Well, then pay me money then. Give me a job. Give me all the money you got for free after that inheritance. In fact, give me the house that was given to you for free so that I can sell it later for 3 times the profit. Or, for a profit 3 times of what was paid for it originally. It smells like diarrhea back here. That keeps happening, the diarrhea smell. So are they sick over here? We're wondering if the city is showing where there are sick spots, because it got really weird last night. There was diarrhea smell in far away, distant locations. There is a bar up here, so unless they're cleaning out the sewage. So anyway, so I have actual real experience. I don't, give unsolicited advice to people, because I know people need to go through their own. The only thing I would say is, don't. But if someone were desperate, I would say, well, you can try. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe there's a better school. But just on my own, I'm not talking to someone directly or being sneaky and talking to their dad. She shouldn't do that. There's a compacted. Hey, I was talking about this the other day. How cool would it be to have a compactor for all your trash, especially when you live in an apartment? And that way you can squeeze it all down and stick it in the bags. So that makes it easier for, whatever you want to call it, the person who has to collect it, because some pigs moved in on the floor. I'm sorry to say. Sorry for that word. So there are some people consuming a lot of stuff, and every time I take something through the trash can, I'm like, God, did someone move in who has a lot of trash for some reason? Because usually it's on the low side. And most of us, a lot of people have more recycling than trash. It's just all the packaging goes in the trash. And, for me, tissues and paper towels go in. Or I'm sorry, packaging goes in recycling. But tissues and paper towels, that kind of stuff, if you use them, will go in the trash. I really don't have a lot of trash because everything's so recyclable these days. So anyway, but went to trucking school. CR England might not be the best pick. In fact, it wound up in a trash collection. It wound up in a class action suit. So a lot of us wound up getting letters saying someone sued. You're in a subgroup for the class action suit. So I love that because, I can, should I go for a house or whatever? I can say, well, our situation wound up in a class action suit, so any loans attached to it are now in limbo and question. So a lot of things wound up in class action suits because of me being forced to do things because of how dumb everyone is. So sorry, I know I sound mean. So, company, the smash hit musical comedy. Yes, is that good? Okay. Company. Stephen Sondheim, music and lyrics. So I don't know this, whatever. I used to love all the theater stuff, but because of what happened beginning in 2011, which involves a lot of street theater, gang stalking, harassment, and into the realms of like, whoa, like it gets really weird. You start to see the Matrix and it gets whack. It does mess with your brain, but there are actually people consciously participating. So it's not like you can't put it all on the victim, like, oh, well, you must have a mental. No. I don't even see PTSD as a mental illness. I see it as being provoked by people who agitate too much or scare the hell out of people for a living. You see, is someone mentally ill if they have PTSD? No, they have a condition. They now are reactive because there's too much trauma and terrorization in the world. Especially if you're scared out of your apartment. Which way am I supposed to go? I have to ask my master in the sky. Let's see. So hello, sorry about that. Milan fan or Milan, hopefully I'm saying that right. You're lucky and Army recruit, right. Hello, I appreciate you coming in. Sorry I didn't see your chat earlier. I'm using the YouTube app only, so sometimes it illuminates and I can see it, sometimes it doesn't. And on the YouTube app, it's like it'll last for 3 seconds unless there's like a million people who come in and keep the chats illuminated. In my case, I'm I'm kind of considered a newbie, so, and I'm in Philly, and I think that makes a difference in terms of in terms of how many people actually come in. If I were to go up to New York and stream from New York on a regular basis, I think it would get more attention. New York is really exciting to a lot of people. Philly is sort of down on the list, like we're like number 5 or 30 or what have you. So thank you so much, Milan. I think of Milan cookies, and of course Italy. I try not to eat too many. I don't really eat Milan cookies because I am a non-GMO organic foodie. I was sort of reprogrammed here in Philadelphia, but if they were in front of my face, I would totally eat them. I just don't buy the cookies, but I saw an article, speaking of yesterday, showing like all the Milan flavors, because I grew up with like just the chocolate Milan, and then they added like double chocolate. And in more recent years, it's like, oh, they have mint, they have orange, coconut, I guess, I have no idea, or raspberry would be another one. Here we are. This is a medical school, so this is Jefferson University Hospital. So they have all of this. I forget if this is the like DNA-ish. No, or is this the Hippocrates Oath or whatever you call it? I kind of forget. It's been too long, and I don't know if they have neuroscience here. Can you believe that? Can you believe that Philly, with its slamming of people and doing NASA-inspired activity, would be involved in neuroscience at a high level? I know a lot of people might be involved in neuroscience, but there were 2 scientists, I think, from this area, one named Jeff something, who wound up on What the Bleep Do We Know? Do you remember, has anyone seen that documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? It came out in the early 2000s, and Philly is a place that will play independent movies and stuff like that. So it didn't make the rounds in a big, gigantic way, but it did gain a lot of notoriety. I watched it. I wound up buying the CD back in the day because I was like, I love this. I love it. What the bleep do we know? Blah, blah, blah. And there was a guy from neuroscience in there being interviewed, talking about, our life experiences, how we see the world. Why do we like ourselves or hate ourselves? A lot of people hate themselves. I can't speak for men, but I know a lot of women hate themselves. God forbid we gain 2 pounds and our lives are over for the day. We can't step out the door. So it's, it sounds silly, but there's a whole scene in there with the actress who's hard of hearing deaf. I forget her name. She's sort of the good looking ish with the long hair. She's been on a lot of TV shows, the L Word and like a lawyer show and everything. You're going this way. Yes. Hi, Joe. I'm sort of walking around. There's Scott Memorial Library. I don't know where Scott comes from, but unless it's Scottish, I have no idea. There is a huge Scottish population apparently steeped in history here in Philadelphia, but also Greek. The word Philadelphia actually is Greek. not Latin, but Greek for the city of brotherly love. That's what it actually means in Greek words, in a Greek breakdown of the word. Now, whether or not this is the city of brotherly love, meaning does it stick true to that sort of statement? I would say no, not at all. That was your plan, Sharon. Right. So here's this. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a bull flying. I always think of when pigs fly, but it's really like a bull or something. Orlowitz residence here through Jefferson. But anyway, what the bleep do we know? They talked a lot about our life experiences, how we see the world. I kind of forget everything but perspectives and on your walks this morning, right? Rudy is sort of on the shakedown of, he's all over the place in terms of a schedule, so I don't have my normal schedule for a few, like last week and for a few days this week. With the holidays, everything's all jumbled up. So normally I would have been walking Rudy right now. Just a block over, like one street over, right? The Golden Retriever with an agenda, right? They always seem so sweet, but they have some strong personalities. They're like little people in there, bossing people around, swagging their butt all over the place. So anyway, what the bleep do we know? Great documentary, movie, whatever you want to call it. This is a huge medical area here in Philadelphia. There's hospitals here, but then also all the way over in West Philly, a major complex. In fact, the name Perelman, Perelman, is all over the medical buildings over in West Philly. And they were named after Ray Perelman. Ray Perelman used to live in 1820 South Rittenhouse, and I walked the dog 2 floors below him. He wasn't there permanently, like he had a home in West Palm Beach, Florida, 1820 South Rittenhouse. I have cousins who grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. He also had, I'm sure he had properties all over the place, but the places that he would call home, he would go to his beach house in New Jersey also. So West Palm Beach, Florida, New Jersey, like we'll say like Ventnor-ish, I guess, or Margate or what have you. And then here in Philadelphia. So every once in a while I would see him. He would be in a wheelchair. He passed away at 101. When I saw him, he would have been in his late 90s. So he was inching along there in a wheelchair and an entourage of staff pushing him along in the wheelchair and so forth and so on. So anyway, always hear that EMS. Right. There's a show, I don't know if it was St. Elsewhere or one of the other medical shows, and they used to talk about the red snow. And, if you say you work at a hospital in a big gigantic city like New York or maybe Philly, but and the snow, or Chicago, and the snow is falling. I got Chicago there. And there are EMTs and red siren lights all. And it was like this, moving scene at the end of that particular episode. This is back when I watched TV. I can't really watch TV any longer. But DocuVault, here, shred this. Beauty and the Beast. So anyway, the Broadway musical. Excuse me. Here's Will's Eye. We're, busy here at Will's Eye Center. So, anyway, almost got there with a car backed up there all of a sudden. So Will's Eye. Who's Will? I'm kidding. Anyway, what if they do keep an eye on what people do and how much they are sneaky and so forth and so on? Right next to Jefferson, neuroscience, and so, but I forget what I was saying about, the red snow and the ambulances, and it was a scene at the end of one of those shows, like St. Elsewhere or the other one where they had like McSweaty or McCutie or whatever he was. It's been so long since I've seen these shows. They're inspiration for people to get into this field. So there's a lot of hospital shows on TV, and a lot of people wind up, as doctors, nurses, and so forth and so on because of it. No, thank you. I'm not into gory stuff. Like, I'm more of, I don't need to feel important, because I know people go through phases, and maybe when they wear scrubs, they feel important. And maybe that's part of some people's developmental process. They know everything about the medical dictionary, and that makes them feel important. And I guess if it helps build confidence a little bit, but there's a line where it crosses over into, do you know your jobs are fake? I'm kidding. Someone said that. They're like, they created certain machines just to appease people, and they're not even needed. But we'll get into that later. You have to be really high up. Look how many people are here for nursing. So I'm not a big lover. This is why we're holistic. So we do the naturopath as much as possible, essential oils, organic, non-GMO, water, no sodas. Avoid these people like the plague. I'm sure there's some nice people all up in the house. I had a really the cosmetic surgeon who stitched up my face on the bike accident. He was totally awesome. He's of a very high caliber. I already knew that. He already knew. So anyway, it was immediate, like, thank you. It was like a spa getting stitches in my face. I'm like, I feel like I'm at a spa. That's crazy. Loud enough for you? Like a crab. So exit only. This is the St. James. And a little claim to fame here for the St. James. Guess who stayed here for a while? Just very briefly with her boyfriend or husband. Way back then, I think they were just boyfriend, girlfriend. Miley Cyrus. That's right. Miley Cyrus was here briefly with Liam Hemsworth or Helms or whatever. Liam was doing, get this, stop it, wait for it, drum roll please, Paranoia Productions. Guess who was paranoid? Big time. And I don't love the word because people create paranoia for another person. I don't like, the victim is not paranoid. People create paranoia. They're annoying. That's right. It's so sad that they flip the script so much to make people seem like they're crazy, when really they're victims of very awful people. And those people know they've been playing games their whole lives. They know it. But anyway, Liam, what's up? Paranoia Productions, I want an explanation. As if I could reach him, But Miley Cyrus, of course, Memphis or Nashville or wherever, it's all orchestrated. I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand. I'll show how high this. Talk to myself for hours. I hope you understand. That's too funny. So that's the St. James. It does go way up there. I walked a couple dogs in there. But really, someone named Rhea actually has monopolized this building. Oh, I'm sorry, not Maria. Rhea. Sorry, there's a Maria and there's a Rhea. So Rhea walked a lot of dogs in here, although Maria had some from time to time. We got stuck on the elevator together having to play nice with dogs that want to go at it, Can you imagine having dogs that want to go at it and they're stuck on an elevator for 30 floors? And you're like, I can't believe they got on. They know my dog will want to attack that little appetizer of a thing. And I've been kind of stuck in dog walking. I don't mind right now. We've sort of just accepted that I'm alive. Somebody came in to control the situation, to quiet down whoever the sadistic MFers were. H-Grow, like Honeygrow, 94, hello. Coming out of the AR building. He drove it himself. He didn't get a driver. So I took care of the Utley's dog, Jack, and Cat in here. They lived here at the Air Building way back in the day. He was a professional baseball player, Chase Utley. That's my claim to fame. And Jennifer Utley. I only met Jennifer. It's totally fine. She was totally awesome and nice. And technically, I'm used to dealing with, she behaved as I would expect a human being to behave. So technically, I would see myself at her level. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. That's about it. So you don't have to play games and do all these other things. So that's the St. James over here, Washington Square. And I will pat myself on the back because it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's all about the character. We have a lot of people who sought out status and clout just to rub it in people's faces. And then you have other people who took the real road and became real whole human beings who understand that the world is a wreck. So H Grow 94 Honey Grow on this gray, right? He reminds me of Bob Britton a little bit. Oh, he's sort of, I get it. He's like the mayor. He would be like the mayor's father. Oh, it beeps up really quiet. Right. It has a really quiet beep. Ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum. Can you hear it? That's the backup reverse beep instead of these loud, annoying, grating, acerbic beeps that, set people's PTSD off. So and that's all you need. I grew up, we didn't even have that kind of stuff. So here's 210 Washington Square West, Golden Gate's there, and that's where I stayed a handful of times to take care of Jack the pit bull, and Sam, I think it was Sam the cat. The cat, for some reason, is in the way back in my brain, and I have a hard time remembering his name. Because for a second I was like, they do have a cat, right? Why am I forgetting that? It could be because very high-level people don't necessarily need to be remembered. In my case, because it was so bad. What I experienced was so bad, it's like, we'll dodge and we'll switch from the Phillies to the Dodgers, and we will gracefully exit the land of Murder Mittensville, Philadelphia, and we'll be over back home on the West Coast. Thank you. So they just sort of gracefully bowed out, and actually he was signed on to the Dodgers for a year or two and then retired. I don't know if there's one more team in there or not, and that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. So it is still a little bit chilly out here. I was happy to have them call me. Technically, they connected with Rhea first, because she would be the one who's often around here at Washington Square and at the St. James. Also, a friend of theirs lived in St. James named Mira. I think she's like, she works with Holtz, cigar company or something. I don't know if they own it or what. But anyway, there's the St. James and there's the AR building. Rhea does a lot of even doggy daycare at her home. So she'll bring a lot of dogs back to her house, and she has a husband and everything. So she couldn't really stay here to do their overnights. So unless they just said they got it from, no, I think I communicated with Rhea, and I was like, they have a cat, right? The cat thing kept, being a hang up for me. So, but I remember scooping out kitty litter, as I have a hard time picturing the cat. It's really crazy, but it's been a lot of years. So, but 11, 12, 13, a 3-story penthouse condo on the southwest corner. So they would see out here, their windows would face, that's west and that's south. Beautiful home. And, it is what it is, I guess, when you have a lot of money. And it's not, I will say this, when you live in buildings and high rise, it's not like you're cozy. Sometimes it does lack a coziness because it's more hotelish in nature. You see, there's a difference. And when you have a cozy house, so a house can feel cozy, this, that, and the other, but people do what they got to do when they're in town for that's the AR building there. And more Masonic in nature, and dating back, almost looks like Egyptian ancient times or what have you, if you could see the faces up here and these pieces here. And then you have the super modern St. James. It was nicer here. We have staff working in different buildings, and people play games, and some buildings hire from certain companies. There's a couple different companies that provide, concierge services or what have you, valet or whatever. Which way should I go? But technically, that's the difference. Now, this is even less cozy. That's really hotelish. This is slightly more cozy, but it is what it is. I'm guessing they live in a house now. No idea. I had Jen's phone number in my phone forever. So ended in either a 49 or a 99. There was one digit where I was like, is that a 4 or a 9? And then, looks like Godzilla there. And in fact, a lot of Chinese wind up here, or Asians in general, at this residential building. I'm not really sure how it works, but see how it looks like reptilian and Godzilla-ish. I don't know why, whatever. It's just how people were designated. So Washington Square, a lot of people will come out and do Tai Chi in the mornings. Do regular walks each morning. It's like more, very ritualistic. Okay, so we have Quest Diagnostics here. They do a lot of like AIDS stuff, blood work, and stuff like that. So Mask Up Philly, so a lot of medical stuff. There used to be a Mazzoni Center down here, but they moved, and they have like prescriptions and ethos down here, which is probably medicinal marijuana and so forth and so on. A medical marijuana dispensary. So that's that. I am here on Locust Street, right? Like the biblical locusts. That's so who knows? I don't know who named Philadelphia streets all back then. Free. PLIST-free to free. Thank you. Yes. So I'm guessing this is about Palestine. I'm not sure. That's a topic that gets really confusing for me. This is, in history, we'll just say this. We've had protests here in Philadelphia, and it got confusing as to who exactly was protesting and for what. Because, and I'll only stay on this a short time, because there are some people, say there are Jewish people who don't want fighting at all. So they might protest just for no fighting, but really a lot of Palestinians are protesting to free Palestine of occupation from Israel and so forth and so on. For some reason, my brain starts to get confused because in terms of who owns what land, technically, I guess Hamas started the actual fighting. And I'm wondering if there are people protesting who joined up with the groups, because there are a lot of people who are almost career protesters and they just wind up in protests. But I'm wondering if they totally understand which group they may or may not be for or against. Because my brain can't keep it straight for some reason. My issue is, I do know from experience that people in protests do get targeted by the big bad wolf in the sky. In my mind, they're in the sky just because they get to do things that most people don't get to do. And it's like, are they starting all over again and they're going to create new targets? And that would mean people are looked in on or listened in on too much, not through microphones in your apartment, but it could seem like it. Is that are they starting the wheel all over again? Hospital Central Services. So, go this way, or we're just sort of meandering around. Just there's a reason, yeah. So we're just sort of meandering around. So I have extra time on my hands this week. I start overnights on Wednesday, so I figured I'll be super busy starting Wednesday. So in a way, today's like sort of a little bit of quiet time before it starts getting crazy again. But anyway, this is a very impassioned argument, this whole thing between Israel and Palestine and everything. And anyway, there's always the hawkeye or the eagle eye looking out for people who could seem like they have terroristically minded brains. I don't know much about that world, but I do know people get targeted. A lot of people won't protest because they're afraid of the big bad wolf. They found out and they're like, no, thank you. No, thank you. We'll stay over here. Today, I would say, no, thank you. I'll stay over here. We're good. I'm old. I'm also older. No, thank you. Because technically, protesting is an exercise of rights in America. It shows democracy. It's supposed to be an exercise of one's rights. So I totally get it. And people get all caught up in the sort of emotion of it and everything. But today I would say, if I walk by with a live stream, I'll catch it on live stream. But otherwise, I'll stay in my apartment, thanks. I already got taken to task worse than the most heavily organized protesters out there. I am so not kidding how they can mess up someone's life so badly. So whoever they are. So no, thank you. We're good. I'm too old now. Heroes work here. sometimes I don't gag me. Heroes work in a lot of places. So heroes have to drive buses, because what would people do if they weren't bus drivers? Heroes deliver your mail. Heroes work in the library. I'm so tired of certain people getting the hero badge and not everybody else. After a while, you just want to throw up. Oops, I don't want to target myself. I just got angry at the medical industry. See how that works? I just had an opinion because I don't love the medical industry that much. I try to stay away as much as possible, non-GMOs, so forth and so on. Stick with as good a food as you can, as long as, my brain's reprogrammed to do that. So, but who are the real heroes? People who get paid a lot of money to act like they're on a soap opera. Stat. I'm superior to everybody. I'm the hero. You see how there's some people who are like that? Not everyone. And they have scripts, like actual written scripts. I learned how to talk about anesthesia. I learned how to talk about intubation. I learned how to, okay? So a lot of people wind up with education that's so revered and respected by the system, but they're missing something. There's a lot of people without bedside manner. They don't know how to relate to people. They just need to seem superior. I know I'm going to use all these big terms to make you feel like you're a loser. Don't care. I know I'm superior. So I will say this, the torture and terror that I endured helped me realize that these people are a bunch of, it's just, BS. It's another way to feel important. There's a lot of heroes out there, and they never get any recognition because guess who has to hog it? Lots of hogs out there. They so desperately need to feel. So I will give the hero badge to myself. My teddy bear is in the closet. And let me think. Maybe a couple of dog walking clients these days who keep me going. I'm trying to think who else. A couple friends who at least will be nice to me for the most part. I'm trying to think who I would give a hero badge to. Gosh. I'm trying to think from 2011 who earned a hero badge. Although my sister did come up. I dragged her up here, and in a way, she spared me. I needed her to come up, and she was willing to come up. So I think in my book, I might have actually called her a hero, because those first few days, that is some whack ass stuff. Sorry. And trying to think who would be a hero in my case. My nephew came through as someone who was willing to keep things. He and his wife kept some things in storage for me at their house. So that's heroic. No one else is willing to do it. And we want to compare who has a lot of money and who doesn't. So we have people in Gainesville, they don't get the hero badge, not even close. I can't believe it. You would think they would. You would think they would, based on these are kind of cousin relatives and stuff like that in Georgia and Florida. And you would think one of them would get the hero badge just because of the way he presents in the world, as if. Talk about needing a show and a little bit of status and clout, just a little bit, to pretend to be, in the world of counseling, psychology, and stuff like that, when really wanting to be a documentarian and a filmmaker. I really don't want to be. I had to come out here. Technically, I was advised to come out and do YouTube to show who I am and also to expose whatever goes on. I was like, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? What do I have to do? Thank God I can just use my phone. You get that little vertical strip of a video. Free 1 carat lab grown diamond here. I might splurge on a coffee. I'm trying to decide just because I start overnights in 2 days. Should I? Do you want peppermint mocha or pumpkin? I always get pumpkin. All right, I will be right back. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I went in to the Starbucks, and they had free samples. They have sugar cookie free latte. This is a sugar cookie latte and a little piece of a vanilla scone. So I decided not to buy a latte. Instead, I'll drink the free sugar cookie latte just to try it. My thing is, I usually do almond milk. So that would be the downside. I'm sure they used regular milk. I'm willing to forgo it. Starbucks usually uses real foods and stuff like that, kind of. Should I eat this? Sometimes I'm weirded out by stuff that's too sweet, but so they have, yeah, it's good. It's soft. That'll do me for a while there, just because it's sweet. So here they have samples. I don't know if they're going to be doing this for the season at many Starbucks, but they are here if you want to come on down and get some free stuff. So that's a sugar cookie latte. I've never tried one. I'll give it a try, even though I usually do almond milk. I don't think they put almond milk. I just read it really quickly on the thing, but we're near the medical community, and I'm wondering if they did it for them. It's good. All right, so we will forgo putting out the money today just to have the free sample. It's good. It's kind of bland. It's not as, I was worried it would be too sweet. It's not overly sweet. It would be just like whatever they put on top. And there's a hint of espresso in there. I can taste that. It's pretty good. When I first looked at it, I was like, are they offering like a soup? I thought it was like a cream soup or whatever. But instead of buying Starbucks, I wound up with a sample sugar cookie latte and a little tiny piece of a vanilla scone. That'll suffice. I just sort of wanted that feeling of going into Starbucks. That's usually how it works, isn't it? Like most of the time, we don't really need it. It just becomes a pastime. For some reason, we Americans, we run on Dunkin' Donuts, or we have to stop in a Starbucks. And it's just like, what do we, like when you really get down to it, what life is having something to do. Like when you really think about it, it's what do you do with your time, and we all go on for, like most people sort of are on the track, if they can be, to like go on for a job, like try to find a passion or things that they like, I guess. It gets kind of, it's rough out there. People have to go to school. They have to pay for it if they want to try to pursue a certain type of career. Hopefully there are enough jobs by the time you get out of school, or like that you can be put on a track to at least, hopefully you like people wherever you work. That's always an issue. What if you wind up always finding bullies and you're like, where do I belong? And I have to have enough money to find a community. Like you would have to keep seeking out communities where bullies don't reign supreme. And at least in my case, I feel like I've been stuck on a track where I have no idea where you find people who are basically good people, who basically show up to work, basically do their job, basically want to earn a living, basically want to have a house. Maybe if you want to go for more, you're like, maybe I could get published. Thank God for self-publishing, made easier for people, so you can do it yourself instead of having to deal with crabby editors and publishing companies that have to have things their way because New York will never change. I'm not sounding too bitter, am I? Right? That's too funny. After a while, after you go through a process like that, I'm in a position to be able to say, it doesn't really matter. I have a lot of experiences in life, so I no longer am insecure about not having experiences in life. I know there are people out there, and maybe they get barraged with people, especially in Philadelphia, walking around with graduation caps and gowns from like a big university, and they might feel like less than or whatever. That can be put through special just to make people feel like they're less than. In the end, it doesn't. It does and doesn't. Like there are experiences in the world. Everybody has their own journey. But should I go this way? I'm just sort of walking around. There's a little leaf falling. See it? Samples at Starbucks. I think there's like 3 cups left. So anyway, it takes a while to get to a point where you don't care any longer about stuff. Some people might reach that earlier because of experiences. Here's the air building again. Oh, Right, back in the day, second chance. Oh, the Utleys, right. I used to take care of Jack a little bit back in the day. We're talking 2011, 12, 13. So back 10 years ago. They probably moved when? 2015 or 16. They're showing that they can come in and tongue twist their Tallulah's garden. We were already over here, but I'm just sort of making circles. I'm on the Fruit Loop, the Fruit Loop path. We'll go into Washington Square because this is the history of Philadelphia is over here. A lot of it is, I mean, all of Philadelphia is about history. Supposedly love. I think that's so funny. Right? So yeah, trust the experience. MSS. See how it says trust the experience. There used to be big 18-wheeler trucks that would say trust the experience or trust the process. That's it. Trust the process. And if you are put on a vortex whirlwind treadmill ride that's like 6,000 miles per hour and you're being whipped up into a frenzy in a vortex, and you keep seeing the truck at 1820 South Rittenhouse where I would walk Cody, which is where Raymond Perlman, the billionaire, lived. He was actually worth 18 billion according to the holdings that were published online. Hospitals named after him and all this stuff. Then you're like, I'm supposed to trust the process because I'm hurting every day. I can't figure out how to get out of dog walking. I don't know what to do now. And now that I've been dog walking for so long, I'm not sure I could work in a normal capacity ever again. So forth and so on. No, architecture plus design. A canon or a no? Is that a message to someone who thought they were all that in mega chips? No, I don't think so. Who knows? Grapes of Wrath there on the design element under the shutters. I don't know if that's actually what it means, but I always see grapes and I'm like, I wonder if it means grapes, like grapes of wrath or sort of sour grapes or what have you. No, patient drop off here. Please proceed to 719 Manning. That's funny, So this is Penn Medicine. They used to have the Farm Journal around here. I don't know if it used to be in this building. They might have moved over to the Philadelphia building. I hope she waited just for me. Farm Journal building. So that's right. They used to have a bigger sign, but it's the Farm Journal building. Fire department connection, sprinkler, wet standpipe, basement to roof, sprinkler, wet standpipe connection. So that there it is. It's hiding. It's sort of hiding in the bush there. But it does say Farm Journal building. This is where I know it from then, because I knew that so it does say Farm Journal building. So in history, this is the Farm Journal building. I didn't totally finish this cookie thing. I think it is milk. It's not totally bad to have milk. It's not the worst thing on earth, but I had enough, I think. So I know when to. Geo J Bissell Company or Beisel Company. It's only one S. So we'll head on into the square. I needed to get past those cars. So there's often a lot of traffic turning here. There's a two-way up there, but it turns into a one-way over here, and everyone goes that way at this point. There's some trash cans in here. So this is Washington Square. Philadelphia is made up of like 5 squares, I think. There's Rittenhouse, Franklin, Washington, Fittler, and there's another one somewhere. Of course, there's the Naval Square, or the Navy Square, but it's not like a square or a park like this. It's like a residential debacle, conglomerate of, gated community. So here, I'm throwing this in here. They have nice trash cans over here in Washington Square. This is more touristy over here. Rittenhouse Square, where I normally walk, is more artsy, and people who are used to living in the area will wind up there. It's like a catch-all for drug addicts. Catch-all for for smokers and stuff like that. Your medical marijuana people and stuff. So wink, 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 wink. The Hopkinson house is over there. I took care of a cat in there named Levi. That is another debacle. That's one of those places where you walk in, they have their own energy, period. When you walk in, you feel like you just flew down to Florida, and you're like almost beachside in a high rise. It has a very I'm wondering if a lot of older people live there, but the person whose cat I took care of was actually a very young woman who had become an elementary teacher or something like that. And her apartment or condo faced Washington Square. Sometimes it can feel like a painting in here if you were to really get deep and to look at everything. The birds flying around, and it's almost like its own little movie, if you will. But that, see how it's all white and everything? It even looks like Florida. You know what I mean? There's a whole feeling associated with that building. And you walk inside and you're in a different zone. So some people might say then it's heavily controlled, which would explain why someone jumped from one of the balconies and committed suicide, who was the boyfriend of a female DA, district attorney here. I kind of wonder, because what makes someone go that far? And if you're in a heavily controlled environment, like the Hopkinson house, they could actually get someone to actually jump. It's really hard to make a decision like that. And I've been pretty down in the dumps. It's hard to tell, but I've had my fair share of depression, and I just kept it to myself and tried to seek out help quietly. And I think, if you grow up with certain energies, Delaware, I don't think had the best energy for people of our socioeconomic background. So that would explain a lot of depression. So here's the Eternal Flame. And speaking of the veterans, it was Veterans Day just 2 days ago. A 3-year sacrifice, the Constitution lives, we the people, 1787 to 1987 is when that was put in. I do wonder if I'll ever be recognized, and I don't mean disrespect to anyone else, but I know I was trained as if I were a military, like high-level military spy, I guess, or a Marine. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I was treated like hardcore Marine. Freedom is a light for which many men have died, and women, in darkness. The independence and liberty you possess are the work of joint councils and joint efforts. Joint because people are puppeted. In unmarked graves within the square lie thousands of unknown soldiers of Washington's army who died of wounds and sickness during the Revolutionary War. So for all of those, making sure we have freedom and it stays that way and no one comes in trying to mess it up by tearing down buildings or flying into them or wreaking havoc on the streets or driving people crazy, having them jump out of buildings. So sometimes war is secretly done behind the scenes. And who made that guy jump from that building? And we do remember the district attorney's office. If you were to sing it out, it sounds like Deo, Deo, daylight come and they wanna go home. Sounds like a Beetlejuice movie. Didn't they play that song at the dinner scene when everyone was puppeted at the dinner scene? 1 foot, 2 foot, carry me banana. I guess those are the words, but if you look up the district attorney's office in Philadelphia, it's a big gigantic D, a big gigantic A, and a big gigantic O. And that was enough for me immediately. I saw Deo. And we even had Beetlejuice running as a show here. When I first returned, Beetlejuice was all over the place. I'm like, I haven't seen that in years. It was a movie. They turned it into a play, and it happened to be playing here. Hi, Mr. Squirrel. Yes. Hi, I don't have any food. I wish I did. Here, the squirrels will come up and eat your sandwich from your hand. They're very friendly here. Oh, I could have given him the scone. Right, I forgot. I didn't know which way I was going to go. I would almost go back and get a scone. That guy's going to eat a leaf over there. You can it's hard to see. He's right there. He's got a leaf all curled up in his paws. He's a vegetarian. So, how cute. He's actually sort of chomping down on the leaf. Like, I'll get my greens in today. So, it's a little bit quiet over here. These are the Independence Place towers. towers, like north and south. I think they're considered north and south. So that would be the north tower and that would be the south tower. These are pretty cool condos. I've taken care of pets here. Everybody, they are actually pretty good. So if you had to live in a way, like if you had to live in a condo situation, I would actually recommend this place, other than having to deal with the usual rigmarole of having concierges. I technically, wherever I live in the future, oh, look, little Pomeranian there. I don't want to have to put up, like, I like doing my own thing. I don't need people to I don't need someone there. Technically, they kind of keep track of who's coming in and out. They handle mail or, packages. But I can do all that myself. Like, I don't need people to cater to me per se. And also, it just can get a little bit messy when you live with a lot of people. And I wouldn't want to have to put up with the concierges here. He was bad enough as a dog walker. So, but the actual condos do have fairly good energy. For the most part, I would say this is a pretty good place to live. It has to do with how it feels. There was a professor there who had like a little clementine tree or a mandarin tree or something. I think she was Greek. And this is actually a client of another dog walker, and she kind of handed that person off to me because she handed off to like different people to cover all the work. And I liked going to that woman's place. I'm pretty sure she was in that one over there. And on her balcony, she had a mandarin tree. And anyway, as far as energy goes, these are in the okay group. This is doable. There might be a lot of people who don't love some buildings, but these are actually pretty good. If you had to go by energy, I'm not a concierge front desk person, so that would be the only downside. Of course, if you actually own it, then you sort of already have a certain commandeer over your life or whatever, like you technically. But I come across a certain way sometimes. I don't know what it is about me, but people love to play games. So it's a thing. So I'd have to put on that dandelion coat with a big Victorian collar and walk around as if, in order to get some respect around here, You know what I mean? So I kind of wonder if there are any residents in these buildings who don't love how they're treated. If they're like, you know what, I own my condo and I don't want someone playing games with me. So, but I would recommend the Independence Place. So they might be heavily orchestrated, but I would pick that. It is so funny. Washington Square is like putting on the Ritz. Like, I don't know what to say. Hopkinson House, you could be fooled into wanting to live there because there is a certain feeling when you go in there. No offense. It's a whole thing. Like, this is interesting. It totally feels like I just went down to Florida and retired, But isn't that fascinating that you can walk into different buildings and have a whole different energy, like big time? Some you walk in, like where I live, it's pretty much normal. Where I live, it's pretty much normal. There's not that much of a difference. You walk in and it's not like you're hit with a new energy. I will say my apartment's pretty good because I have good energy, I think, even though sometimes I sound crabby here online. but I like to keep my apartment a certain way. And luckily, like, I'll burn a candle from time to time or use like pumpkin incense. And I know that when people had to come in to change filters not too long ago, I'm sure they walked in and were pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, good. This place is pretty clean. There's some gross people who live out there. And, technically the maintenance men have to go in and do stuff, and they're like, ugh, they're all grossed out by people's bathrooms and stuff like that. And their apartments, can you imagine like dingy pink with brown and like it's all depressive, like barely any light coming through the windows, even though we have plenty of windows and you can allow, So anyway, sounds like a neighbor. I'm kidding. So, right, these, I've been fascinated by these. I've walked past these a million times. I don't know who they're a part of, but of course those windows are totally awesome, aren't they? I almost moved into an apartment, like shared an apartment with someone down here. But it didn't work out, which was for the best, just because I went through a phase of, should I move out of my apartment because of all this crazy stuff? But every time I met up and looked at different places, it's like, you know what, that's not going to work. I'm a certain type of person, and we got all kinds of crackheads out here. I forget, certain types of people, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. So I'll just stay where I am, and so forth and so on. Little pumpkin smash there. We decided to just keep going with the walk. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back or to continue on to Penn's Landing. Like, my plan was to sort of head on in this direction and get some exercise in, just to keep going. And it's still, it could be way worse temperature wise. So he was all bundled up. It's so funny. It could be way worse. Should we pass by here and zigzag down the other way? Let me go down here really quick. But, anyway, I'm starting these overnights in a couple days, so I won't be able to do stuff like this too often. And it's like 2 weeks of overnights. We're like 14 nights of, keeping it together. The Acme, I feel like something happened at the Acme. Not too long ago, I forget what I read about. Anyway, I do know that, let's see, it's 11:45. I do know that here's the CVS. It used to be a liquor store. In fact, years ago when I was sort of they could do the energy here. Years ago, I wound up, like, after 5-6 years of being tortured. Here comes, right on cue, Dave's Killer Red. And what if the money you got is from a killer network, So anyway, I went through a lot of phases of whatever this thing was that kicked off in 2011. And at some point, like, I would flip out or whatever, or start yelling. But there was a woman who, I guess she might have lifted or stole a bottle of wine from this liquor store. It used to be a liquor store here. Now it's CVS. But the guy came out, like, whacking at her with a broom, or he was being very violent. And I actually flipped out because I felt like she needed to be stood up for some reason. These people have, the liquor store has so much money, they shouldn't be selling liquor to begin with, but that's a whole other topic. But anyway, and I was like, he was too violent for the offense. I was like, one bottle of wine, that's it. Some cheap, Chardonnay or some like $3 bottle of wine that someone, and he went ballistic on her, like, violently. I totally flipped out. I started yelling at him. I called the police on him. I normally wouldn't do that. You see what I mean? Like, I would have been like, oh, that's an ugly scene, ouch. Did I call the police or did I just yell? I can't remember what I did, but I knew that I flipped out on that guy because I was like, stop it, and I normally would not do that. So was that created by people who have too much privilege in a very wealthy section of the city? Myra, Addison Walk, Waverly folks. Who created that debacle so that Sharon looks crazy also? But for some reason, I felt sorry for the woman. It's hard to explain. Who cares about a bottle of wine? Who cares? Who cares? And first of all, could we go back to the source and why do we sell bottles of wine? Who's dirtier? The person who creates alcohol and sells it and makes a profit and creates people who need alcohol, creates people who need to drink soda when they don't, do they? Who decided that people needed this stuff desperately? Let the bottle of wine go. Here's right. All you have to do if you have something to say and you're tired of people say people were stealing stuff all the time. Besides cameras, you just file a police report. One little cheap bottle of wine. I was like, who cares? I'll pay for the bottle of wine. Fuck it. Why did he lose it on that day? What was going on that day? Because his behavior triggered my behavior. And the other woman, she was actually like crying. She was actually in a desperate place. I didn't see her as like outsmarting the liquor store guy. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that at all. I want to know why people have certain brains and they're so Nazi-ish. Nazi-like and self-righteous with sticks up their ass. Now, I can sit here and say, do we really need alcohol? But I'm not, if people drink it or whatever, that's their prerogative. I know that people become addicted because other people are at the wheel and they control people's situations. Why are things available? Who creates bad stuff? Who created it? The very people who have sticks up their asses. Right, I don't, but the very people who just want to make a whole bunch of money off your weakness. That's about it. So anyway, I got really upset. But also internally, I was like, I can't stand it. I don't know what causes it. Like, and people just say PTSD, but it is like someone else can create the environment to make the switch go on. It's more than that. The psychiatric community has got to realize that people are setting people up to flip out. Even people who don't have a quote-unquote medical situation would snap out. There are people who snap out in their office jobs all the time. Do they have PTSD? Or are there people willing to create an entire situation so that someone totally flips out? Or is there a puppet master at play? I'm laundromat. That's good. Philly Game Shop. So anyway, that's my little soapbox on that topic. We'll head on down to South Street. We got a siren, little silent siren. Someone's alarm going off somewhere. Spread the love. Here's another spread bagelry. So look at the plates. Aren't they cute? Spread bagels. They had just one tiny shop over on west of Rittenhouse Square, and then they, just around the pandemic, blossomed into like 20 different locations. This used to be like Johnny Rockets or a malt shop or whatever. I like, I don't go to Spread. I really don't go to Spread that much. I had a gift card from the first year I was here. They gave like a birthday gift card because I asked. I was like, do you give out free stuff on people's birthdays? And they're like, no, not really, but we can send you a gift card. So they sent me like a $25 gift card just for asking. So they're like, that's interesting. They didn't know like IHOP gave out free pancakes and stuff. I didn't ask again just because I think it was a fluke thing, like a one-time deal. Like, no one's ever asked before. Red spread bagelry or red gel rye OD oven. Penn's Landing. All right, we won't totally go to Penn's Landing, I guess. They keep telling me to turn around 500 times. Turn around again. Just go back. Okay, so 2nd Street. Wimmer reminds me of Schwimmer or Swimmer, criminal defense. Instead of winner, Wimmer, swimmer, Schwimmer. So anyway, I guess we'll go this way. We won't go all the way down to Penn's Landing. It's too much. It's a little bit chilly. I got that free little sampling of a sugar cookie latte that was available. Wow, I haven't seen those in ages. Tennis rackets with the cases. I think we actually had a couple like that ages ago. That's going way back. I think my aunt was a big tennis player. Like when, you know, I think she took tennis in high school and everything. So they had tennis rackets from back in the day, like the 50s, you know. Um, and they had the yellow strings that you had to sort of, right, you stick your fingers through like Pete Sampras. You got to even out those strings. Um, so Pete Sampras was recently in the news, something with his wife. Garland of letters. There's some incense for you. Like if you want some incense. Well, I've gone in here just to feel better for a second. Not everybody loves it because it depends on your perspective at any given point in time. But I've gone in just to sort of have a little grounding experience because there's so much. There's a lot of crystals in there, and incense and books. You know, theology or mythology or what do I want to say, like psychic stuff and all that. Buddha was not a Buddhist. Jesus was not a Christian. Muhammad was not a Muslim. They were teachers who taught love. Love was their religion. So they've been around for a long time. Gandhi on nonviolence, and so forth and so on. So we've got Noor, incense there. Should we go in or not? I can hear like a Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. They're on the 2 7s. 2 7s. We won't get into the number pattern. The Bhagavad Gita, and so forth and so on. So I will be right back. I'm going to head on in. This is what it looks like. It's on South Street, and already I picked up on the Nag Champa. Let me see if I want to see if they're promoting other yoga, because the yoga went in the classical tradition. When? November 19th? Grid. Sky Foundation. What is yoga? How does it work? What is it for? Is it a religion? What is Sky Foundation? Oh, I think I looked up Sky Foundation before. All right, we will go in for a second. All right. Oops. They're not quite open yet. I might be on the early side. I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's just coming up on noon, I guess. So they're not quite open. I'm not sure what the hours are, but they have someone in there cleaning and stuff like that. So anyway, that's Garland of Letters. I've been in there a few times. Anyway, actually, it's been more than a few times because he's getting Nag Champa there, sage and stuff like that. But we'll create some noise here. So anyway, so opposites in the same house. They did it to gang stalk me, is what I was told. So who's in cahoots on the gang stalking? Because Garland of Letters was conveniently closed for some reason. I don't know their hours. I don't know if they're really like noon to 7 or Federal Donuts over there. That's gang stalking. Engine 11 in the house. Everybody's a punk on South Street. So I rarely come down here unless it's for Whole Foods because I'm tired of the scene. It gets old. It's like 4th grade mentality. It's like you could only take South Street for so long, and then you're like, okay, we're tired of the piercings. When will people grow up? Yeah. I'm totally kidding, kind of. Am I? Am I not? Am I not? Oh, look, there's the Hopkinson house. Do you think anyone was saying, setting a ritual for that person to jump off the back? It was the back. He jumped off the back. So a balcony back here, it would have been like over in that region, over there. I remember it well because I'm like, no way, someone actually jumped off a little too close to South Street. Maybe it's better not to be in certain areas. Dottie's Donuts. So here we are coming up to Lombard. Of course, I did feel a little bit of anger there by that person who turned on the garage just as I went by, and it's all creaky and cranky. No peace at all. They brought him down here. He used to hang out in Rittenhouse for years. So they sort of pull people in. So I thought he had a home and everything. Lombard Cafe. There's one of those air conditioning things. Technically, you do not, I repeat, not, N-O-T, want one of those, even though it seems like, oh, I like it drawing the natural air into my, what I understand is you do not, actually do not want one of those. That would put you, a tag on you as a gang stalker. Gang stalkers have them. And we know this for a fact because whenever those things have turned up, the people have been assholes. Remember Karina, Tammy, my neighbor across the hall? I'm surprised how many people have them. It's like, God, a lot of people wound up buying these big clunky things with the Danger Will Robinson with those big, accordion arms and everything. They're rolling them all over the house trying to have air conditioning. It's like, shouldn't the air conditioning work? Like, why'd you have to buy this thing? You have a window unit and that thing? Star Garden. Starr. It's Steven Starr, the restaurateur who owns a lot of restaurants here in Philadelphia. He's been many years. He's been known as one of the biggest restaurateurs in Philadelphia. His last name is spelled with 2 R's. So I don't know if this is after him, like him or his family, or if he just coincidentally has the same name. Star with 2 R's, like railroading people. I'm kidding. I'm not. I'm totally kidding. Hi, Mr. Squirrel. I wish I had food on me. I would totally feed you. Can you get up there? Let's see. Oh, hi, you sweet thing. Oh, I wish I had food or crumbs. They will look to people. They are funny in certain areas. There he is. He made it to the top. And hi, Mr. Squirrel. Right, watch, he goes flying and jumping down. Grabs onto my face. That is too funny. Oh, I wish I could feed you. I've got to get into the habit. I should carry a kibble bag, right? Just as if I were dog walking all the time. When I walk around here for these squirrels, I don't know. It's so much quieter that I wonder if they actually are hungrier, because there used to be so many people around, whether they fed them or if there's just more stuff around to eat. And, I'm sure they're fine, but like that one was a total vegetarian eating that big green leaf in Washington Square area. So, So we'll head on this way. I had to hike up I have leggings on under my shorts, so I had to hike them up, and I look like some sort of, how you get that scene where you're like, oh, I gotta yank these shorts up to make sure they don't fall down. Then I got a couple looks from some people who still might be in kindergarten brain mentality, like, so a lot of people who haven't been through like certain experiences in life, they're part of an old show, and they just sort of give you the once over, the eye roll, or it's more the once over, like, you're not good enough. I think it's so funny. There are people way down there, and they don't think people are good enough because you have to look and present a certain way, or you have to behave a certain way. And it's like they haven't even done anything except watch Mickey Mouse their entire lives, So they have a very limited view of what's acceptable and what isn't, because they simply just haven't been out there in the world to get over it, Smells like diarrhea around here. So I'm curious, it pops up in certain areas. Because I think it is actually a sewage line thing, because it sort of like comes up. It's not like homeless situation where someone had, where a whole bunch of different people had an accident. Um, so I was told to say that, but I totally know what it means to, like, there are people who, they don't think people are correctly or acting correctly, and yet they have zero experience in life, meaning no education at all. They haven't stepped outside of the house. They haven't had any jobs. Some people still, are a little bit more, they would know better even without those things, but certain people, they sort of act as if. It's hard to explain. I would have to put it through. Anyway, we deliver for you. Thank you. It's the government. I'm sure drug users use it all the time up in Kensington. You could put it through. That's my message to you. We deliver for you. So, everybody playing the confusionary game here today because they're small-minded, small-brained, and dumb. So that would be, light is green or red. We're going to trick you into crossing the street so you get hit by a car. She's not saying anything. She's going in 807. So people will collude and work together to try to trick someone on a corner. I've walked these streets so many times. I'm 10 times past the whole thing of recognizing if a light is green or red. And if I'm focused on this, but people will do that. We're in a bad section is what I'm saying. So from Star Garden, this is a really bad section. Therefore, the real estate is a lot less. You thought you couldn't afford a house in this city. Think again. No down payment, no problem. You want to live just a block up from South Street? No problem. Bad credit? No problem. Want to look good to make people believe that you have a lot of money and you barely work because your family's owned restaurants or whatever and you just live off of that the rest of your lives? No problem. Want one of the fakest houses in the city that's not even desirable to live in? No problem. Still live streaming. Yes, Joe. I almost was going to go. I was almost all the way down to Penn's Landing, but I just decided to turn around for various reasons. But I got a lot of leg work in today. It's leg day, right? It's leg day. I'll head on this way, and at least I am not tucked away in the apartment, sort of, not moving around. It's like sort of like oddly, I had more dog walks over the weekend, so today is sort of kind of like a day-ish off before the big rush of the overnights, which begin on Wednesday. So I wound up having extra work on the weekend that I didn't expect. Someone chimed in on Saturday morning saying, by any chance, can you do these walks? Because I have a foot issue. I'm afraid to make it worse. I'm supposed to go to New York, and I don't want to have a really inflamed problem trying to walk around that city. So wound up with some extra work over the weekend. Rudy's on hiatus-ish. There's these. I used to take care of cats for someone who lived. You would go down. Just walk over there. Here's Lombard. I'm gonna make sure we don't get hit by the bus down there. He moved way down to East Passyunk, the guy who used to live here. But his apartment did have these things on top. He was kind of a hoarder, so trust me when I say that things. Oh, I got a little bit of chest pressure here. Things aren't as they appear. So you never know how people wind up where they are, how they keep their homes, what's going on. But super nice guy, but you would go in down here. There's a little courtyard, and then there's a building all tucked in there. It's sort of like it's so funny because there's like these secret residences that people don't even know exist. And Technically, it was kind of, I guess you call it a loft apartment. I don't know what to call it because it was so oddly, it was an odd apartment. I'm trying to figure out, but they have a lot of these like sort of sunrooms on top. Um, unless you don't use it because it's all jam packed with a bunch of boxes. And that guy was a total hoarder. He had 2 cats, and you could barely find a path to walk. I took the work just because he was a friend of Ace's, the guy who owns Ace down in South Philly. They're friends. And it's hard to say no when you want to earn extra money. Wow, what a massacre. We'll go around here. So you sort of just say yes, but because of the position I'm in now, and he wound up moving. His mom passed away, and they sold the house, his mom's house. So I'm guessing he's in a slightly better position, and he moved all the way down by Bach Bar area, BOK, like 600 Seigel, or just south of 600 Seigel. I forget the name of the street, but oddly, I was taking care of someone's cats and dogs who live on around 600 Seigel. And like last year when I was at Yoga Pod, which caused me to get the Go Tracks to begin with, I was like, I can't walk. It's too ridiculous. I'm taking the subway. I'm trying to get from point A to point B in a short amount of time. I always wondered about this house. It's like kind of pushed back, unless it's the back of a house that's actually on the other side. So this reminds me of one of the masseuse people. Here's Chelsea plating. So anyway, it is a thing, like whether you're a dog walker or in any line of work, if you have to enter into other people's homes, if it becomes an issue as to like if you want to say yes or not, or if you feel pressured to say yes. Here's some dog biscuits for your dog. If you want to come in here, it's very vintagey around here. Chips Ahoy in the house. Good Karma. Oh, did they close up for her? Or are they redoing? Stop it. This is the end of an era. In fact, I used to walk Ace, not Ace, but Ace's dad had a dog, a boxer named Romeo, and they used to live around the corner on 9th Street. And back in the day, when I walked Ace, I took a picture of Ace with this tile. But then Good Karma came in and they covered it with like a mat or what have you. I was surprised Good Karma did last for quite some years. The wall. I guess they're gone because they still have the Good Karma. It was redone all the way over on 22nd Street. But anyway, Good Karma with their surveillance camera. I didn't know it was Good Karma. That's the end of an era for certain. The king is dead. Or they were waiting for the whatever. But yeah, whenever you work in a position where you enter other people's homes, it does become like a thing is it safe to come in here? Like, I'm afraid someone, like the hoarders have a Trappist mentality. And people, I know they see it as a disease, like people have issues, they hoard, they have a lot of stuff going on because of traumas from upbringing. But other people might see it as, oh, this person's trapped in there. And what if someone came in and locked the door and they're trapped into, they can't get out and they're in like this gross hoarder human trafficking in a way. You don't talk about human, some locations are like that. Luckily, I have clients who are basically okay right now. But every once in a while, someone comes out of the woodwork and I don't know if they don't realize that it's too scary for people to come into their homes. Like, I'm not sure, it's like, what will help someone be able to sort of undo all the hoardership that wound up in their lives? Because it could feel like human trafficking. Because when I came back from Florida, got a call from the guy. He's super nice, but he does have like a falsetto voice. So in a way, it could play into the idea that he's like part of the mafia and like, someone tried to strangle him because he was killing other people and then his voice wound up high pitched. You know what I mean? It sort of plays into that whole thing. Delaware in the house. And it's like he seems nice, but he does have this falsetto high pitched Italian voice. He's actually Irish, but he seems like a combo. either way, they both have big time mafias, right? So, and add on that the gayborhood, and you got the gay mafia, Irish and Italian. Those are the most impassioned of the mafia leaders, other than the triads, the Asian community. So, anyway, um, and when I got back, I took care of his cats on 2 separate occasions, but it was like I was almost barfing. Like I was like, I don't know if I can continue doing this, and I feel badly because he's, I don't want to be, I feel badly about this, but also I felt fear because technically it's a different type of fear. Like coming back to Philly actually feels more murderous. In the past, I kept being taunted, harassed with all kinds of things like, oh, we're going to frame you to make you look like a sexual offender. We're going to frame you to look like you didn't do your taxes. We're going to frame you to look like, it's totally crazy how bad it can get really bad. It's like Christian Bale or whatever. And because he can look a little scary and terroristic himself. In fact, Christian Bale became the Batman after Heath Ledger passed away, or the Joker, or whatever. Somebody passed away. Christian Bale took over. Then the theater got shot up. There was an actual mass shooting at a theater in America, and the movie actually had that scene in it. It's sort of like when the reality hits the pavement, like when reality hits the screen or the screen hits the pavement. This would be a male version of a dog walker I used to know. They could almost be twins. There's someone named T and like the Slice. Remember that truck that drove around with the orange slice on it, and it was like for Slice, like some sort of beer or whatever. That's their people. Wherever he went, he disappeared into the Yoons cleaners, so I'll head on this way. But anyway, so turns out the nice guy who happened to be a hoarder, but I wondered sometimes if there was danger anywhere nearby, he wound up moving so far away that it's too difficult, and I'm in a better position to be able to say no, and so forth and so on. Pepsi. I keep seeing Pepsi. This is interesting to me because Pepsi has a breakdown. The Coca-Cola truck is usually what you see. I've been seeing a lot of Pepsi lately, but he's on the fritz here. Oh, the poor Pepsi truck. This is so funny. This reminds me of, wow, look how interesting that is in the F25378 Pepsi. It's so funny because a long time ago, I was walking a dog named Izzy down on 216 South 24th Street. And there was this cute little blue truck that was parked in front of a parking lot, and the hood was up and like steam coming out. And it just looked like this sad little truck had sort of like broken down. This is around the time that they were giving out gobblers for the Wawa. At the Wawa, they have the turkey gobblers. And I wound up getting one for free because Verizon got cracked open. Anyway, because they did not have cranberry sauce, which is like a key ingredient. This is pre-vegetarian, so I was still technically eating meat at that point in time. This would have been way back. It's still 2000, who knows? Unless I was like, you know what, I'll have one turkey gobblers. I can't remember why I would have eaten it. So, alright, a lot of noise here. These little guys here. So I'm walking north on the eastern side of 11th Street. This is Rana's over here. Or no, they changed it. It's not Rana's any longer. Honeybee Gourmet Deli. It used to be Rana's, I think, back in the day. They changed it. There was a fire down there. huge fire on the corner there of Warnock is right down there. Warnock and Spruce had a major fire. It was a medical fraternity. This is way back in 2010-ish. I guess 2010. I would say 2009 or 10. Anyway, I was walking a dog, a Weimaraner, on Warnock. So it would be like behind these buildings here, named Emma or Emmy. And I actually took Emmy home with me because I was afraid the fire was so bad. I was afraid it would like blow over to the rooftops of those houses behind the medical fraternity house. Anyway, therein lies potentially the beginning of a setup, because the son of a guy who actually was in my mom and dad's wedding party, and I didn't know this at the time, actually was outside. He lived with his partner, who I would meet later through volunteering, still not knowing who that guy was. But this guy named Michael Wenkowitz used to live on Warnock with his partner, Wayne. The guy would be out here during the fire. I'll show it really quick. So Michael would step out and say, "Oh, did you call the fire department by any chance?" when there was a fire at the medical fraternity. And I was like, yeah, I just did, because there was so much banging. I was afraid someone was trapped in the back of the building. That would have been the building. I was like, I don't know if someone's trapped, or like, did anyone else call? Like, I wasn't sure what to do. He's like, it's good you called. It's good you called. And I was like, I guess so, So anyway, a million people came out to watch the fire, and I took Emma home, the Weimaraner, who lived across the street from Mike and Wayne. I had no idea that the guy's name was Michael Wenkowitz and that his dad had been in my mom and dad's wedding party. I wouldn't know that piece of information until my mom passed away and I read the news clipping of her wedding announcement. That's how many years it took to realize that a guy who lived here with his partner, and I was taking care of a dog who lives here, who used to live here many years ago. I wouldn't know that. Or is it the Union one? They used to have a circle flag. I think it's that one. Well, anyway, he lived in one of these two, either 247 or 245. Michael Wenkowitz, and his dad was in my mom and dad's wedding party, and I didn't learn that until about two and a half years ago, when I found my mom's news clipping and all our stuff, and I read through it. For some reason I decided to read it. I was like, Michael Wenkowitz. So I would meet Wayne while volunteering. Wayne and Michael lived in one of these two homes here. And I just, I had no idea who everybody was. Wayne had gone to the University of Delaware just like I did. And then he wound up at Beasley School of Law here in Philadelphia. So that's the back of the medical fraternity. This is all the same building. Technically, I guess, are they still using it for that? Because I know someone who I knew moved into an apartment. Like, they switched it over to apartments, and some people were housed in there, but it was kind of crappy. In fact, there was old, kind of ripply black and white tile from like the warped kind of floors and stuff like that. It was just really crappy and junky in there. I don't know if they fixed it, because they have new signage that says like brick Philly, rentals or whatever. So that's the medical fraternity for the Jefferson University Hospital, which is just around the corner. Well, technically, that's one of their buildings is right there. That's one of the buildings for the Jefferson University Hospital. This is Warnock Street. Interestingly, a politician in Georgia would run in 2020, Warnock, an African-American guy, and he ran against that woman with the baseball cap. And their debates were televised a lot. I was in Florida at the time. It's like, oh, there's that name, Warnock. There's a green light on this. You don't see this too often, but there's a green and red light on I see some blood on the green, or rust. I guess it's really rust, but we're being dramatic. What is it? So whatever it is, I guess you don't see these too often, right? You don't see these too often, but it would be like a pad-mounted transformer, I guess, box. Because they have pole-mounted ones. And you know how some people live in suburbs and they have those green things on their lawns and the kids sit on them, and so some of them are like big boxes, some are just like towers that are like that high or whatever. I guess it's a pad mounted. Is this a totally orchestrated block then? Do they have it easier than some people? So this is technically the fixed up version. I want to see if it's still crappy inside. So this would be, hey, you want to live here? It's fixed up a little bit. Kind of. It's fixed up a little. Still looks a little crappy in there. It's hard to see. I can see through a little bit. It's still kind of on the crappy side. It's still kind of ghetto-ish. It's hard to explain. They fixed up the outside, I guess, a little. A lot of these places are actually ghetto-ish inside, even though they look mansionous and wealthy. Down here, they have some nice ones. There's some people who needed a dog walker down here years ago. And down here where the powder blue or gray shutters are, those are a little nicer. So Enliven is over here at Habitat Coffee House. Oh, it's no longer Green Street Cafe. Oh God, Habitat Coffee House. What happened to Green Street? I guess the party up and left. I guess the orchestrated community who was here for my terrorization and harassment, they've up and left. New name, same great coffee. I don't know if I like, unless it's Habitat for Humanity. Now the font they use is sort of like the Odunde Festival. So you'll see sort of like different fonts that look a certain way, and you start to wonder if there's a connection at all, whether they know it or not. So it's good to know. I didn't even realize that. Right. What if, say, you were in a mindset and you really wanted a house and an entire community was willing to make it seem like they were in control of your life, but they're really not. They just want you to believe it. That's how controlling a system can be, and it's part and parcel of gang stalking. Gang stalkers want you to believe that they've controlled your whole life and you're in some sort of prison per se. They really aren't. I mean, if they were in charge of it, where's the money, right? So they buy their own lies, hook, line, and sinker. So Philadelphia will keep them going. Who knows where I'll wind up? I do plan to live somewhere else ultimately when I gather up the funds to do so, or what have you. Instead of Dorrance, it says Orance, like ordinance or Rance, They got rid of the D on Dorrance H. Hamilton building. This used to be Jimmy John's. They cleared house. Nobody wants to hang out in Philly any longer. Or Fiat, right. There's always people, they have either Arberths or Fiats or Arbarths or Fiats or whatever. And I always get them mixed up. The Arbarths are a little bit wider in the back, I think. Like, that's how you can tell. That's what I'm told. I kind of remember, like, over time, it's like, they do look slightly different, but I wanted to say Arberth for some reason. So finally, meandering back here, getting a lot of walking time. I just sort of walk around and live stream. Sass more. Some beeping here. It's 11:11, as if a bomb's going to go off. Of course, 11:11 is Veterans Day. This is also the Telegraph Building. Western Union Telegraph, but it's for condos. Like, I actually took care of a boxer in here named Secret. See, Western Union Telegraph, you get it? Can you hear me now? Is this thing on? Crickets laughter. So Mayflower over here at this joint. That's changed so many times. But it looks like SoFi. I just got some rosemary herb from the supermarket, and they're called Soli, S-O-L-I. This is SoFi, S-O-F-I. But it's similar, More Than Just Ice Cream all gone. It's now a Winkle. I think that's some sort of Dutch word. I forget what it means. I have to look it up, but they use rival coffee. They used to have ice cream in there, and was it More Than Justice Cream? Like if you were to look at the word differently. This is a staple in the neighborhood. I mean, More Than Just Ice Cream was around forever. But they up and left also. So either the pandemic or the show folks knew it was time to move on. So we'll head on this way to some broken bottles. Right. So there's like ductwork or pipes and stuff on top of the Academy House. It could look like a big, gigantic, rusty white spider, scorpion, or tarantula. It's hard to explain. It's all the way up here. As we get closer, I'll show you. It used to be the 12th Street Gym, and now look. They're like 30 floors in the sky. Gem Coffee right there. That's the original one from the neighborhood. It's been many coffee places. It was Millennial Coffee, Brouhaha, 12 Cafe, and now Gem. There's one more in there. I kind of forget. And then they also have a Gem over where I walk, Fletcher and Sheldon, over at 17th and Pine, southeast corner. Southeast. Mazzoni Center. 12th Street Gym was also a staple in the neighborhood. So a lot of people showed up there, got pumped up before their night out and everything. And it was kind of a cool so we have a beagle scaling the wall here. It's like White Dog Cafe, but actually it's a dachshund. It's like a dachshund. So I don't know. They have a beagle or a dachshund is scaling the wall at the Song Spot, 1209. It's new. And we got your usual neighborhood icon folks over here. So yeah, I think Tammy's got our air conditioner in the window there. One of those things. Not really sure why people wind up with those or how much they cost. This is just the veg restaurant. So if you were to look up here, it's hard to see through the viewfinder, but it looks like a big, tarantula or claw thing sucking the life out of people in the whatever. Oh, it's really the condominium building. It's Arts Condominium, not Academy House. So it's like rusted pipes and stuff. I almost lived there because someone was renting out their condo. I almost lived there. I signed up for a showing to see a condo that would have been a little bit less at where I'm living now. Almost the same price, but somewhat less. A little bit more old school. So like the hardwood flooring would be your typical old school hardwood flooring as opposed to the new stuff that they kind of slap down and it looks all modern and everything. So I almost lived on the 13th floor there. Oddly, it was on the 13th floor. But it was a first come, first serve situation. It was a little bit larger than where I'm living now, but it had that old creaky feeling as opposed to a modern feeling. Right. Sorry, someone told me to say creaky, but that's right. And while I was at the airport in Jacksonville, Florida, coming back from Gainesville, the airport's in Jacksonville, I would get a message. Right. I would get a message, an email saying they rented out the apartment. Like whoever saw it within the first showing, they had like a day of, say, a few people, 5 people seeing the apartment before I was scheduled. Like I was going to be scheduled the next day. And someone applied and got it that quickly. So I would have wound up in the Arts condo had everything gone originally as like hopefully planned. I'm kind of glad I didn't wind up there just because there's so many. I think the riffraff is a little bit worse in the neighborhood, and it's right here at the theater district. And I didn't know where I was going to live. I had to hunt around. I was desperate. I was scared. My cousins are real man babies as a result of their way they handled me being there, invited by my aunt and mom. My aunt wouldn't have wanted me to feel like I was kicked to the curb. So I'm wondering if she would have, those are her sons, but I'm wondering if she would have been like, who would be proud of their sons? I want to know how many people who have sons with money who are proud of them. Where I come from, none. If there's money, they kick people to the curb to get it. So that is a fact. I can't believe how bad. I'm still in shock over Gainesville and their behavior. I think they think that they're special, but they're actually not. They're taught something really dumb. So, yikes. Anyway, the alien eye there. So there you go. It was pretty scary. Luckily, I had worked for Shipt, and I knew that I had enough to get by, but I knew that it wouldn't last forever. It's the thing, like, I finally have money saved up, and now I got to spend it to find a, now, like, how do I ever get a leg up? You know what I mean? There are a lot of hypocrites out there who think they worked hard to be able to live where they live, but they didn't. They had a lot of help from family inheritances, estates, grandparents. In step families, sometimes you wind up getting triple, double the money of people who give you gifts all over the place. Not in my case, because my mom didn't remarry, so there wasn't another family to come into play. I just relied on the same old my dad and my mom. That's it. And my dad had to make sure his second wife's kids were taken care of, so they took priority. So now, say for instance, you wind up a child of divorce, and say you wind up a child of divorce, and you have, let's see, I'm going to pick one person I know whose mom remarried. So she has her original dad, the dad and her original dad with his family who had money, the new dad and his family who has money, a step grandfather, and her biological grandmother. They have money. Big time perp right there. We'll go this way. And we'll get into it later. So anyway, kind of tired of it. Aren't you? So anyway, can you imagine having like 5 different male families to draw from, all of whom have a lot of money, disposable income, from inheritances, not from their actual jobs? Their actual jobs wouldn't help them get by. Their actual jobs just cut the mustard. Can you believe that? But a lot of money that's given from old school money. So some people wind up with just one stream of income. Some people wind up with 3 male-dominated streams of income, or even 4, and then the grandparents stacked on top of that. All my grandparents are pretty much dead or near death. They're dead now, but I mean near death during childhood. So I come from like just my mom and sister, and then a part-time dad. So anyway, Goldie right to your door for $40 when you could have paid $12. Well, where is it more pleasant to walk around? Here in Center City, or way down by, 8th and Chestnut? You be the judge. The exchange. Hey, are we ready for that stock exchange? It's about time for Sharon and the family left behind to be the winners of millions of dollars for all their hardship and suffering, pain, mental anguish and pain. While everybody else acts like they earned what they have. 5, 6 properties. So Here we are on the barge back towards the apartment. I am heading west on the northern side of Walnut Street, about to cross over 15th. Have sort of an extra time on my hands today before overnight start Wednesday morning-ish. They're heading out in the morning, so the schedule will pick up right quick on Wednesday. I thought about going to New York as well. I almost was going to go today, but this morning it was so quiet. I was reveling and cherishing the quiet, and I decided not to spend the money right now because it would be a train ticket, and it depends. You have to get lucky with your train tickets. I'm so tired of taking the bus to New York. Technically, the cheapest way is bus, but I have taken the bus so many times in New York that I just absolutely not. I will no longer take the bus. So I can swing Amtrak, but I have to be in the mood to spend the money. But I wanted to get up there to do a live stream in New York, partially based on trying to get more viewers. Like last night, we had quite a few people, come in, and then lots of view hits, if you will. But in New York, you can sort of grow your channel a little bit more quickly because New York is fascinating to a lot of people. Also, if people watch live streams just to see who's on the streets, and they do this, I think in New York, I kind of picked up on, people are watching to kind of look for, people who are being uncool or potential dangers on the streets and stuff like that. So maybe Philly will wind up in that position, and then you can wind up growing a channel that way. So, I wanted to get up to New York. I might wait till after, say, like the tree lighting and everything to get the Christmassy feel. I wanted to do the High Line, which is Chelsea Piers up to Hudson Yards, however you want to look at it. It's basically the Javits Center, all the way down that one. I guess is it the eastern side or the west? I guess it's the eastern side, down to Chelsea Piers. So I almost did it today. I was on the verge of should I just grab Amtrak and go up and just do it? But I'm still tenuous about spending money. I'll get a decent check, this week for the overnights, and I'll feel a little bit better. So I don't want to spend any money that I have in savings. I actually want it to grow. And so anything that's in savings, I'm just acting like it's untouchable because I'm tired of whatever started in 2011, kicking me to the curb, and all the people who played along like idiots, and so forth and so on. I was someone who never used the word idiots back in the past, but my situation was so torturous. I no longer care. I'm also older, and I think when you get older, that's another factor in not caring any longer. But a lot of people might be in stages of sensitivity of who uses those words, sounds Trumpish or whatever. But if you're tortured enough, your brain switches into another mode. You have to be tortured and terrorized and harassed to death and made to believe you're going to wind up in jail because somebody's going to frame you to look like this, that, or the other. Mark 4, transportation and logistics, prime. And that would be a message like Mark's looking into logistics of how to get you from point A to point B. Whether you're moving or going to New York, it would be like moving. So that's how they operate. They practice sending through messages that are almost subversive or subliminal. Anyway. So people can practice by having subversive messaging on their trucking supplies, stuff like that. 40% off. It's good if you can get it. They do have some really awesome styles in there. I try to stay away and not pay attention. You can create citified looks for less, just by being creative and stuff like that. It's really expensive in there. And it used to be they had the homeless look for $1 million. So someone on time here going in, and I walked all that way. We'll wait for him patiently so he can have the elevator. I'm being told to go in, but I don't want to. All right, I decided to wait a few minutes to really go in. I went in for a second. Felt a little bit of harassment, but I really, it's sad. I do feel like Philly needs to grow up a lot. Um, and I'm not really sure if they can have training for blue collar workers so that they can learn how to behave like adults and you gain a lot of respect when you are able to be an adult. Philly's not into respecting themselves. So we'll walk around this way. That's what I was told to say. A lot of people have invested a lot of money in hopes that Philadelphia could grow up and stop being a Toys R Us kid. It's interesting. It is hard to find respectful adults or people walking around who appear to be adults. It's hard to find the respectful ones. So it's funny. You know how you see those trucks out on the highway and they have those ball sacks on the hitch or whatever? That bike's here often enough, and they have the little white ball sack on the back, like a feminine one. Slim Jims upside down in the windows. It's hard to see. There's a Slim Jim box in there for some reason. Upside down in the windows. What if people worked wizardry and they tried to make people feel bad about themselves by being able to force you to see yourself as fatter than you actually are through like a reflection in a window? What if that's like witchcraft? And like I said earlier, women hate themselves enough as it is, unless there are some people, and I'm always surprised by their confidence. It's like reversed. Totally awesome people often hate themselves, and people who are ick, they have like this false confidence instilled in them. And it's like, that's fascinating to me that they actually like themselves because they're total asswives. And there's like really awesome, kind, totally studious, cool, quiet people, and they hate themselves. And they're actually better people. They're awesome, lovely, delightful, cool, fun to be around, feel supported by. But the people who are brutes and bullies and acerbic and they're actually violent. They actually have some weird confidence. Isn't that weird? So we'll give it a second try, I guess. See if this person goes in. No. This is what I was told to do. All right, so thank you, Joe. Thank you, P-List Freed. Thank you, Milan Fan. Thank you, Dave Asanowitz. Dave DH Trains. Joe again. And I think Dave from Maine. Dave in Bangor came in as well. So thanks to all of you, and for anyone else who came in, I'll see you on the flip side. Keep around until... They thought I was going to New York, so it's extra quiet. So thank you so much and have a great day.